Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Purple Door podcast, a Friends Rewatch pod. I'm one of your hosts, Alasdair, along with my good friend, DeeAnn. Hello, DeeAnn. How are you?
I'm doing great, Al. How are you?
Yeah, doing wonderful. It's not early. Was it 10:15 on a Sunday morning? But the weather's beautiful. We're starting off the day recording a podcast. I think it's going to be a fantastic Sunday.
Yes, I'm excited to get outside this afternoon.
Yes, without it being too cold. Yesterday was all right. It was a bit chilly, but not too bad. But today is going to be beautiful,
Perfect.
I think.
Perfect.
Well, today we are reviewing The One with Mrs. Bing. We meet Chandler's mum for the first time. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this episode. But as always, let's start off with a round of Bamboozled. And I'm looking forward to hearing questions from you, DeeAnn.
All right, Al. So, how many tequila shots did Ross have? Assuming that there's a clue on the table.
Okay, you know what? I didn't count it, so I'm going to have to guess. But a few this sort of shot before that, I did look to make sure there was 8 tequila shots, and there was 6 people, and then Rachel and Paolo arrived. But then I didn't look at how many were left after
I
Ross
didn't never even look to see how many there started out with, because I remember her pouring them, but I didn't.
Yeah, and 8 makes sense because there'd be the 6 characters plus Mrs. Bing and then Paolo. So that would be the 8. But then I didn't look, so I'm going to guess 6.
Whoa.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
That is a lot. So there were 3 in front of him that were upside down, and then he was using one of the shot glasses
that's right.
so that he could, appraise.
I do love that scene. Well, given what he does in the next scene, I think he might have had to have 6 or 7, but 4. 4 we'll go with. I do love the appraisal scene. All right. Well, my first one for you is, what is Chandler's mum's either middle name or first part of her hyphenated last name?
What? Okay. Nora Bing, right?
Yes,
Nora.
that is her name, but she actually, when Jay Leno introduces her, I think that's the scene, it's Nora something Bing.
Oh.
And it's
I have no idea. Because I know Paulo, whenever he walks in and he sees her on the TV, he says, "Oh, Nora Bing."
Nora Bing. No, he introduces her as Nora Tyler Bing.
Oh.
I'm assuming Tyler, maybe her maiden name and hyphenated more than a middle name. But yeah, she was Morgan Tyler Bing. All right, what's the second one you've got for
Morgan or Nora?
Oh, sorry, Nora. No, Morgan's the actress. Sorry, okay. Yes, Nora.
I was like, wait, whoa.
Yeah, hold on a moment.
My notes are all wrong. All right, what room is Mrs. Bing staying in?
So that is one of my questions. But so I've written down 226.
Yes.
And and the reason I even know that without looking back at my notes is because when we were watching, Kate, I can't remember why, I'll need to ask her, was hoping it was room 227 because apparently room 227 was in some other show and was quite well known. I'll find out what show.
There was a whole show called, only I thought it was 226. Was it 227?
I'm not familiar with this show at all. She thought it was 227.
We're going to have to look that up real quick. Because, she's right, of course. Why would I ever question Kate? Of course she's right. But that's exactly what I thought of whenever I heard her say that. Was that sitcom.
I need to look this sitcom up because it caught her ear. And then we went back and we watched it and she was like, was that 226 or 227?
Yeah. And that sitcom was a spinoff of another show.
All right, I've got some homework again today. All right, listen, my second question for you, this one I think is tricky. Our conversation before we started recording, this one might be a bit obscure, but what flavor of ice cream is Chandler eating when his mum is on the TV? Flavor or type. I'll give you anything. The brand.
So it's a Haagen-Dazs container.
It is.
Yeah, I have no idea what flavor, though.
We had to squint our eyes to have a good look, but it is coffee. But you get the point. Haagen-Dazs is impressive.
That's so funny. Well, and the thing is that I was looking at there's a couple of other like scenes throughout the show where they're eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream, but I've never like zoomed in or paid close enough attention to see a flavor.
So definitely
Wow.
some product placement of some sort.
Okay, so then this is one of the it might be obscure.
Right.
What newspaper stand is outside of Central Perk? Like, and I said newspaper stand. Joseph's like, that's it's not really a newspaper stand. It's like a vending machine, but it's not. You know the little
Okay.
thing
Yep.
like
Yep.
where you
Like,
put your quarter
and
in
you
and then
pull
you
the
pull it open and take out your newspaper, or if you're
yes,
scandalous, a whole stack. But
yes. So then is are you? I don't know, but are you looking for the name of the newspaper?
hmm
Okay. So I feel I immediately think of the New York Times and the Post. I feel the Times is kind of fancier, so we're going to go with the Post.
nope,
Oh,
it's USA Today.
oh, dearie me! No, I didn't catch that at. Oh, that's a great question. Didn't catch that at all.
Well, and it's in a couple of different shots, like in a couple of different shots, and it's like right at the bottom, and there's two there, and then the girls are leaving, and then there's that whole thing, like right
Right.
out front of the thing of the shop. But the one on the right is the USA Today, and it's got
Okay.
like the symbol, the logo for USA
Right.
Today, which is why that stood out.
I'm gonna have to look back at that. Okay, so my let's see, I think this is my third question for you. What compliment does the mystery man pay to Phoebe in the opening scene?
Okay. Ooh, I know this one. And I was going back and forth because they were both wearing hats.
So that was our, when I watched this again, I think it was to Phoebe, but it could have been to Monica.
Yeah, because they both said thank you.
That's true. That's true. That's
And
yes.
so I don't know, but it was nice hat.
Nice hat indeed. Yes.
All right. Oh, I can't ask you that one. Wait. Yeah, I can. But so I went through and this one it's from the very end, and I was going to ask how many mistakes in Rachel's
Yes.
manuscript, if you will. How many mistakes did they find?
I'm going
And,
to go. I didn't count it.
ooh, okay. So
Yep.
actually, I'm gonna. How many mistakes did they find on the first page?
Three.
It is three
Excellent. I
because
thought I
they
remembered three
found
interactions.
well, and they found one more, but Phoebe had already flipped her page, and
Okay.
she's on the second one, but that got cut out of like that's on just the DVD version. So
Interesting.
so
I
three,
I
right
love
on.
it. All right. So let's see. I've got three more for you, all in all.
Ooh, me
What?
too.
Oh, excellent. What two professions do Monica and Phoebe decide the coma guy has? He's something and something on the side.
He's a lawyer,
Yep.
and then he's something artistic because he has the grooves in his knuckles.
Yes.
Um, is it? He teaches. Is it pottery?
You would get at least half a point in my book. He's a
Okay,
lawyer who's a
take it.
sculptor on the side. That's very close.
That's
That's
cool.
close to me, I think.
Okay, perfect. I love that. All
Yes.
right. Here's another obscure man. Numbers and obscure things is my
Right.
theme for this specific episode. So, what's the name of the restaurant that they all ate at?
I don't even know where I would have seen. Obviously, it must have been when they're all sitting in the restaurant. I don't remember the name. I remember Ross saying, "Who chose this dive?" or something.
Uh huh. Yeah.
But
Okay.
I,
You know, so Joseph said that that was too obscure. So then I'll ask you what kind of restaurant. That's what he felt like
Okay.
would.
I don't think it's too obscure asking the name of a restaurant because I've asked you the name of the dry cleaners, the one with the East German laundry detergent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a fair question.
Okay,
Um, but
we'll do a
is
half
it
a point.
is it some kind of sushi or something like that?
Okay, so that's what I thought because he makes the comment, I hope it's not Kung Pao chicken
Right.
whenever she's talking about that. So I
Yes.
assumed it was an Asian restaurant.
Right.
On the bathroom doors, it's Chico's and Chica's.
That's right.
There is
Yes.
bullfighters on the wall. There's pouring tequila shots,
You're right, of course.
and
Yes.
then the name of it is the Mexican Village.
I didn't catch that, but I could have
Yeah,
inferred to what type of restaurant it was.
yeah.
No,
Well, it's
that's a great question. I like it. All
okay.
right, I've got two more for you. What color was the sweater that Monica knitted for the coma guy?
Green.
It what you knew that yet? Green it is.
I did because okay,
Yes,
so that shade of green is one of my favorite colors.
good to
And so
know.
I was like, that's a great color.
Right,
Go, Monica, and
I
your
would like
knitting.
one of those. Yeah.
All right. So what is the name of Rachel Karen Green's manuscript that she's writing?
Oh, hold on a second. I believe that's near the back of my notes. Oh, don't tell me I didn't write it down. A Woman Undone.
Nice.
Yes. Oh, yes. Again, credit to Kate because I didn't write that down, and she said that might be a question. So,
Yes.
yeah, she's sneaky like that. All right, my last one for you is how many copies of her books does Mrs. Bing say she has sold?
Hey, guess what my question number 7 is?
I can't imagine.
How many copies has Nora being sold? 100 million
One,
copies.
and I want to discuss that later, but that's what I have 100 million.
And we have to talk about that scene because one of the lines that got cut from yours makes
Yes.
more sense as to why that kiss happens. So
I've
we'll
just
talk.
got to buy the DVD set. This is getting
Yeah, it
ridiculous. And
it
and also I was doing some research on this episode, just looking around, and there's a blooper that is apparently in that scene that we watched it like 5 times. We cannot see. So when we get there, remind me. I'd like to see if it might be in the DVD version.
okay. All
All
right.
right. But you have another question for me, or is that it?
No, that was it. My last
That's it. Yeah, 'cause I
question was
took
about
yours. Oh, I love it. That was a great round of bamboozle. I
yes,
love those questions.
we
Well,
did a
let's
great
kind of
job.
that's we did. Let's dive into this episode. Well, we're starting off outside, which isn't too common so far. We mentioned this to each other off the air last week. That in the background, you can see Joey's VD poster from a few episodes ago, which I think is a great throwback. But I'm going to start off by reminding you possibly, and I don't think we spoke on air about it. Well, we did talk about the fact that Kate and I, went and did the Warner Brothers tour where you saw some of the Friends sets earlier this month. And that street where this is filmed is in Friends, certainly the same street where the girls meet Jean Claude Van Damme. And it's also the street where Annie filmed, The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. That's the street that she sings that on. And then there were some other things too, but those stood out to me
Yes.
as that location, which I thought was really interesting. But Monica and Phoebe are buying a newspaper, and then they see this handsome man who compliments one or both of their hats, and then comes to a very unfortunate, an incident.
Yes. Well, it
Yes.
made me laugh whenever Monica she grabs Phoebe and she says the line about that here's a guy that can what did she say? It was so funny, but it made me laugh like send us all into a pit of despair. He's
That's
so
right.
what is she?
Yes. I
Yeah,
didn't
but
write
behind
it.
us is a guy who has the potential to break our hearts and plunge us into a pit of depression.
Right. It's like a Chandler line. I guess that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes,
and I made a comment an episode or 3 or 4 ago about Monica is not really funny. Like funny
right.
is not her thing, but in this episode, she says a few just quick lines that were like legitimately funny. Like, oh, whenever we get to it, but the part she's, what did I even just ask? And she's
Yes,
funny in this episode. Like legitimately funny to me. So,
that's really interesting because that's not. It's not that I didn't think she was funny, but I love that you've got that
right.
different take of that because that's it hadn't
Yeah.
really crossed my mind. But you're absolutely right. She has some great sort of one-liners
Uh-huh.
throughout
Mhm.
this. So the guy, is he hit by an ambulance? I've
Yes, he
forgotten.
is.
Yes, that's what I thought. And we kind of go straight from there, and he's in the coma. And I've got so many issues with this guy in the coma and how this is filmed. And we'll get to the guy himself when he wakes up. But how are they in this guy's hospital room and they don't even know his name?
Nobody knows this guy's name. He is
Right,
John Doe, a female doe or a
right.
female deer. Whatever that line was with Phoebe. But yeah, what is happening there? And
Yeah,
no
like I'm very fortunate. I've never been in a coma, and I don't think I've ever visited anyone who is. But I imagine they'd have a lot of bits and pieces hanging off their body. This guy just kind of looks like he's taking a nap with like one thing in his wrist, if I recall. Like
uh-huh.
there's very little going on for a guy who's in a coma. I feel
Well, and why is he not in ICU?
right,
Like normally, where I've been in a few different ICUs in like different hospitals, but those rooms are normally open to the nurses station, and there's a lot of beeping and a lot of noises and a lot of people in and out.
right.
So it's very strange that he's just kind of chilling in this room where nobody's ever checking on him except for Phoebe and Monica.
Yeah, I feel that they can almost just walk into the hospital and straight into the room, and nobody bats an eyelid, and they just
Mhm.
stay there for hours. It just seems very odd indeed to me, the
Mhm.
whole sort of setup of that. Um, but we go from there to back actually to the girl's apartment, where Nora Bing is on Jay Leno
Mhm.
with her new book, her first time meeting Chandler's mum. Um, let's see. Now, Chandler thought this was quite interesting. Suggests they turn it. I was going to ask you this in Trivia Corner. What does he suggest they turn on instead?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
Weekend at Bernie's, which we find out later is Rachel's most favorite movie.
Right, even though she kind of discards it, which I can understand. It might be a favorite movie, but Nora Bing is happening live, or they won't have seen this
Mhm.
before, so I can understand that. Um, Something I did look into was why this movie gets mentioned a couple of times. So I'm not maybe I do know the guy, but the guy who starred in Weekend at Barney's is Jonathan Silverman, and he grew up being very good friends as children with David Schwimmer. In
Ah,
Los Angeles. They grew up together. They were very good childhood friends and apparently are still friends. So I wonder if that's why maybe they chose that movie to be one of Rachel's favorites or to mention it twice.
yeah. That
Yeah,
makes total sense.
yeah, there's a definite connection there. And then, as you mentioned in not trivia corner, in Bamboozled, that Paolo returns. He
Mm.
comes in and
Rigatoni.
rigatoni from Rome. It's such a great insult. I do like, and this is a flash forward quite a wee bit, but he doesn't really know any English, but he knows Nora. He knows Nora Bing, and then Joey's grandmother, who doesn't speak English, way into the future knows Sam Waterstone.
Mhm.
And then goes Capricorn 1, and that's the only English she knows. So it's these two characters who only speak Italian. Um, they only know the name of a celebrity. Like the only English. Now,
That's funny.
do we think Joey speaks Italian? I don't think he
It,
does, but
I don't think so.
like, how does he communicate with his grandma? I don't know. That's a question for another
Wow.
episode.
Yeah, that I need some time to ponder
Yes,
and think about
but
that.
Paolo made me think about that because Joey is very Italian in the American Italian culture sense, but that doesn't mean he speaks Italian. But just a passing thought. We'll discuss that at a later time. But let's see. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to talk just real quick about the Jay Leno because
Yes.
I had originally thought that she was in New York, and that's how she was in New York
Hmm.
filming on Jay Leno, and then Chandler's like, "Oh, great, mom's in town." But then whenever I watched it again, because I like to watch it once to take notes and then watch
Yes.
it again and just enjoy it and notice anything that I missed. But and she said, "I'm flying out to New York, which I hate,
Yes.
and I'll see my son, which I love." And so I was like, where do they film Jay Leno? Like, or not anymore, obviously, but
Right.
where did they? And it was at the NBC studios in Burbank, which is also
Right.
the same place that they filmed the show, right? Or in
Right.
the same area, vicinity.
Yes.
So I just thought that was interesting and
That's
kind
a
of fun.
fun little thing. Yeah, I guessed it must be, even possibly the same sort of stage, or something. Because if she's there, they might have filmed that Jay Leno scene, and then she's straight over to the restaurant.
Uh huh.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Jay Leno was on the air for a long time before my time here, but like 10 or 15 years, right?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
on there for a long time because it was what the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, I think,
Hmm.
and then Jay Leno took over, and he was so weird,
Right.
and that's not nice. I'm sorry. It's
Uh,
fine.
He's
It's
fine. I've got
fine.
no feelings on
Joseph's into his car collection,
that.
so
He does have him and Jerry Seinfeld, right? Known for having an extensive car collection, I believe.
yes, yes. Um, yeah. I don't know. That was not something I pulled up
Yeah.
because who does the Tonight Show now?
I see. I know
Is it Jimmy Fallon?
Conan O'Brien did it. I think it might be Jimmy Fallon. I think there was somebody in between those two. It's not something I ever watched, but I think you're right. I think it's Jimmy Fallon, I believe. Let's see. We'll need to
Conan
have a
O'Brien.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who hosts
Uh,
the
it is.
Tonight
It's Jimmy
Show?
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There you go.
There you
There
go.
we go.
I
We just
enjoy
learned something.
watching clips of it,
Well, that's
but
it's one of these
I don't
things.
stay up that late.
Yeah, me either. I'm right there with you. That was. We won't digress too much, but I think we've talked about this before. I've never seen Saturday Night Live before.
Yes,
I've
we
seen.
have, and I
Yeah.
still. They just had the 50-year like anniversary
So I
show, and that
watched
was
all of that. We sat and watched the whole
okay.
thing. Really funny.
Excellent.
Really
Yeah.
funny.
Yes.
Like I understand why it's this sort of cultural icon.
Yes.
I get it. So anyway, we've digressed tremendously. But yeah, I
Oh,
wanted to mention
sorry.
too. No, 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 that was me. I wanted to mention that I did actually watch that Saturday Night Live 50
I'm
year
so
thing.
glad.
It was really, really cool. Um,
Yeah.
so let's see. We go from it. Paolo's back. We'll see how long that lasts. But we go back to the
Blech.
hospital, and there's kind of like a little montage of clearly they're coming and going a little bit. Monica's
Mhm.
reading the paper, brings in a
Phoebe,
tree,
yeah, Phoebe was
yeah,
arranging all the flowers, and then they came in with the
shaving his
tree.
face. Yeah, there's all sorts of odd things going on.
How weird is that? I could not imagine shaving somebody's face, especially not somebody that I don't even know you.
Yeah, it's a very,
I
yeah,
it seems dangerous and intrusive, and but I guess it's to highlight how ridiculous this whole situation has
right.
gotten.
Yeah, because I feel it's almost like uncomfortably close, like you said. Like it's weird.
It is.
That's not something you do to somebody else, and even to make that decision for somebody else, like just very, very odd indeed.
Right. Okay, and then the names whenever they were trying to guess his name. I went down a rabbit hole about a name that she suggests.
Oh, what was it?
It
The one
was
that Phoebe suggested? The unusual
yes,
name?
and it was,
Yeah.
and I had written down like uh Eehen because I was just trying to sound it out, but it
Right.
was like Annenbaum. Oh man.
Yeah. I've
And I had
forgotten what
looked
it
it
was.
up. It's from a Greek um anyway, we'll
Yeah.
come back to it
Right.
later. But it was funny to me because I was like that it went from very normal and bland, and no offense to any Glens out there. I once knew a very awesome kid named Glenn.
Right.
Uh, but very, not
Yeah. It's a standard
to
sort of name.
something that
Yeah.
you would literally never hear.
Right.
So
It's a
I just
very
thought it was
Phoebe thing
funny.
to say.
Yes, one extreme or the other. The gray is hard.
Well, we're kind of crescendoing upwards to the big incident in this episode
Dun
here.
dun
We're
dun.
now in the restaurant, this Mexican restaurant, and the tequila has been poured. Um, unless I've lost track of the continuity slightly, but they're drinking tequila, and then at that point, is it Mrs. Bing, Nora, and Ross outside the toilets, the restrooms?
Yes.
Yeah, with
Well,
Ross being his
actually,
appraisal.
she's out there. Yeah, because he's
The appraisal's a
assessing,
great,
and
great.
then Paolo's licking Rachel's
That's
hand
right.
and all of that, and then she's on the phone in the hallway, and then Ross walks out of the women's room.
That's and again the physical comedy there when he sees the lady come out, and he
Yes.
sort of does this double take, like he's very confused. It reminds me of the whole was it the washing machine or the dryer. You know,
Yes.
the physical comedy David Schwimmer pulls off really is tremendous.
Yes, that's so funny. Okay, Al, have you ever gone into the wrong restroom?
You know, I think that is much more of a thing that happens to women because we're like I'm trying to think like at certain
Uh-huh.
concerts there's a lot more women going to the bathroom than a guy's one, so you
Uh-huh.
have to make that decision. um
So, but you've never like accidentally walked into the
I'm
wrong
trying to
one.
think if that's ever happened. Now I will share this little story. I was 17 or 18 and went to Italy to watch a football soccer match. um and things are done a little differently there, and there was just one bathroom, sort of for everybody. And I pushed on the door, and I'll be very careful how I explain the story. It just opened essentially like the door into the bathroom was like the stall door. You just open this door from the restaurant and you're in the stall.
Oh.
And in Italy, certainly it was a very, very old building. There was no toilet of any sorts. There was just like a porcelain, very shallow, wide bowl built into the floor with a hole for the
Oh.
plumbing. And there was a woman, let's just say, squatting over it. And that's
Whoa.
yeah.
Surprise.
So yeah, I and shut the door quickly and left. I think that's the closest I have ever come to that faux pas. Now, how about you? Have you ever accidentally gone into the wrong bathroom?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Right. Well, we need to
and
hear this story.
Al, it might have happened more than once,
Right.
on accident. But one night I went to Walmart, and we were on our way home. It was back before COVID, whenever Walmart was open 24 hours and all of that. And so had to go. So I go in the restroom, and it was a Walmart that I had never been in before. And
Hmm.
normally, like with my familiar places, I know where the restrooms are. That's always one of the very first things that I scope out. Just, I don't know why. It's just
Right.
what it is. One of those weird, quirky things. But at this particular Walmart, like normally at my normal Walmart, it's to the right. The women's are to the right and the men's to the left. For
Right.
whatever reason, it was flip flopped. And so I went in and I went to the bathroom, And then I came out, and there are all these urinals on the wall, and there's a person there, and I'm just like, ah! So I went back into and waited until they left, and then I came out, and then I went into the women's to wash my hands. I was
Right.
so grossed out and freaked out, but I was so like super focused on I've got to go, and we've got to go
Right.
now.
One thing on
And
your mind. Yes.
yes, yes. And so that's probably my most vivid one, and it was so weird because there was somebody else in there. That
Right.
was weird. Weird,
Yes.
weird, weird.
That's hilarious. Well, if it ever happens, I'll let you know if I ever
Yes,
accidentally
please
wander into the
do.
wrong one.
You let everybody know.
Absolutely.
These things, they happen, right?
Right.
I
It's
hope.
part. It
I
makes
hope.
to other people too. If you're a
I
listener and it's happened to you, let us know so DeeAnn feels better.
please, and then I will feel
Yes.
better about my life choices, I guess.
Choices. Well, let's see. Ross starts to talk to Nora about the hand. What does he call it? The hand licker and the one he's licking,
Yes,
whatever it is. And Nora explains that Paolo, what does she call him? A secondary character at best. You can't sell a
yes,
Paolo.
yes. But you'll kill him off. And he's like,
Now,
when?
I can honestly say, and this is not any kind of, oh, because I'm a guy, I've not. I just haven't read any. What was the famous guy who was known for being on the sort of romantic novel book covers?
Fabio.
Fabio. I've never read a book with him on the cover, but to me, Fabio and Paolo are kind of cut from the same cloth. So were there not books written about a Fabio kind of character? You know what I'm
I
saying? Like,
don't.
I don't know.
I I don't know, but the I her point about that was
Right?
that Fabio, or not Fabio, Paul.
Paolo.
Now they're interchangeable in my brain,
Right?
but that Paulo is just a surface
Right?
level, good
Right?
looking surface level. But then, and we talked a little bit about this at the beginning before we started recording, but she's telling, I can't write Apollo because he's
Yes.
he's a secondary character. He's just kind of there for show. But you're the hero. You're smart and you're sexy, and then he's like, "No, like that. Did you do you
Yes.
Okay." Then she says, "And the fact that you don't realize that you are smart and sexy is what makes you the hero." And then she kisses him.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
So
very good description.
is that what your because in the thing that I looked at, that was the one of the lines that was taken out.
I think some of that line is in there.
Mm.
She certainly talks about Paolo being secondary at best, and I think she does compliment Ross. I'll need to double check. I feel
Yeah.
like she
So
does.
I've got it pulled up, and so like she was like, "You're smart and you're sexy," and he's like, "Right." And it's just, yes, you are, and the fact that you don't even, or you don't think you are, makes you even sexier. Ah, kiddo. And but that is in blue.
Yes, I
So
think that bit
where
is cut out.
yeah,
Yes,
so where she goes back and she kind of reiterates again, which
yes, that's cut.
to me, taking that just a little bit too far, just a
Absolutely,
little bit too far.
getting into some weird territory there.
Yes, and
Um,
it's she, but that was definitely her.
so I googled this episode as I tend to do right before we get on here, just to see if there's anything additional that I have missed. Um, and something that came up was somebody claims that when Nora kiss and Ross kiss, you can see a cameraman in the shot. Now,
Oh,
I watched it on like I said, I stream it on HBO Max 3 or 4 times. We couldn't see anything, not even a shadow that didn't match either Ross or Nora.
I wonder if that's why they cut the line out.
It could be. It could be. So maybe if you have a moment and want to look on the DVD,
Mhm.
I wonder if it's there. 'Cause it apparently is right as they kiss. You can see somebody, a cameraman or something in the background, which from our cut on HBO Max, I'm not sure how that would work. But it'd be interesting to see if you can see anything.
Oh, I will be
Yes.
looking into that whenever we're all
Wonderful.
done today. Yes.
Excellent. Well, they end up kissing, and then Joey catches them. I guess as the ward stumbles into the where the bathrooms are,
Just trying to go to the bathroom.
and
Just
he makes them go.
trying.
Why? I don't understand why he'll go and pee on the street. Why not just go into the bathroom? Because then you're away from the situation.
Because he just panicked.
He did. He
He
did. A
just
panic
wanted to
moment.
be as far away from that
Yeah.
situation as possible. And
It
I
was
don't
so
blame him
funny.
because how awkward.
Right.
How
Yeah. What a
awkward.
terrible position. But yeah, not a good move on Ross's part or Nora's part here. But it does segue us into, I think this is my favorite scene actually in this whole episode, where the guys are in the hallway. Again, it's the I don't know. To me, Friends isn't physical comedy centered. I think it's the writing, but there's these moments throughout each episode that just get me and remind me how good of actors and actresses these actors and actresses are. Like when Ross knocks on the door, and then on Joey and Chandler's apartment, and the way he grabs Joey and yanks him out.
Yeah. Is Chandler home? And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yoink.
Boom, straight out. It's brilliantly done. Um, and I think this is another little moment that backs up my thinking that Joey is the best friend throughout the whole series. He's talking about the code. He wouldn't break the code. Um, he talks about possibly a sister, maybe a hot aunt, but never
Which
a
is
mother.
which is interesting because whenever
Yes.
Chandler has the sister situation,
Yep.
that's not okay.
That's not
But
okay. Absolutely not. In
yeah,
Joey's mind. So maybe his moral compass changes slightly. But I do love that Joey relies on this code. Somebody that perhaps doesn't have the strongest ethical morals, which maybe we'll talk about in a bit in listener mail, because Kate has
yeah.
an issue she wants me to
I
bring
was
up.
gonna say we are in
Yeah,
trouble.
we are in trouble. Yeah, we got in trouble for something we said a few episodes ago, which we will discuss it throughout to our listeners. Um, but maybe Joey's moral code it shifts, as we know when there's an incident with a sister. I would like to say, and this is jumping ahead slightly in this scene, there is a continuity error here. Because when Ross talks about, she's not like other mums, she's sexy or whatever. And then Joey
Hmm.
gets very defensive about his own mother, which is very
About
funny.
poor Gloria
Poor
Triviani.
Gloria. Well, he said that Gloria had 7 children.
Uh huh.
Well, Joey has 7 sisters. So
Right.
that would make it that she had 8 children. So
Yes.
just throwing that as just a very slight continuity error there.
And that,
Um,
yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily hang on to that too much because he's probably had a shot or two. He's been drinking, and then he. Yeah, have you ever sat at a table and counted people, and you're always missing one, and then
right,
realize you're not counting yourself? So
right.
I want to stick up for Joey. That
Stick up for
could be
Joey there.
just a mistake. Just
Right.
he forgot to count himself. You
Yeah,
know?
I even stuck up for him in my head by thinking, I wonder if any of the sisters were twins. So she gave birth
Oh.
7 times. That thought went through my head.
Ooh.
And that's a great area. That's she gave birth
Mhm.
7 times, but to 8 children. But
Yeah.
yeah, then Chandler opens the door to get the newspaper, and they all scare the life out of each other.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then this whole racquetball thing starts to unravel before it's even begun. There's no
Oh.
solid story here. It just reeks of desperation.
Mhm.
Now it's funny, like when I was a teenager, I played tennis and I played squash, and really in my 30s, I played quite a lot of pickleball before it got really popular. I might add, went to competitions and things. I don't really know what racquetball is. I think it's very similar to squash, but with a different racket. Is it played in a sort of plexiglass?
It is in a
Right,
room, and then
right,
there's two guys. And this is the extent of my knowledge of racquetball is from what I've seen on TV and movies because
right.
I know nothing. But they're always like in a room, and then there's always two guys in sweatbands on their heads,
Yes,
typically
yes,
in shorts, and
right.
then they're hitting the ball up against the wall, and they take turns volleying it back and forth.
Yeah,
That
I think
is
it's
that
very
squash?
similar to squash. Is that the
Okay.
rackets are a different shape? They've sort of got a much longer neck and a smaller head on the top of the racket
Oh,
than racket. But I think racquetball has a short handle. I think it's just a wee handle and a bigger head on the racket. I think.
okay.
But I'm kind of guessing the rules are the same because the court, the room that they play in, is, from my uneducated eye, looks identical. There might be some little nuances or markings or something, but
Okay.
I think they're very much similar or the same.
Okay.
But then Paolo leaves, having evidently spent the night with Rachel, and they start kissing in the hallway. And poor old
And Ross
Ross,
says, "Do they wait for me
yeah,
to do this?" And I, wah wah wah.
wah
Poor
wah. It's
Ross.
all
It's
about
all
Ross.
about you, Ross.
Sorry, Katie Condren again, our dear friend who loves Ross. Yeah, it's not the
Oh,
world
Katie,
does
I'm
not center
sorry.
around Ross and his sad sackness. We end up jumping over back to the hospital, and this is where I think
Okay, but
Phoebe and sorry, go
wait,
ahead.
wait, hold on, hold on.
Yep,
That's the part where Monica's so funny, right? Because then they go into the girls' apartment
ah,
whenever, right? And
yes,
then they go over in there, and then Monica, they are going back and forth, and Joey tells him, his mom might tell him, and then Monica comes out, and she's like, "What are you guys doing here?" Because
that's right,
Rachel and Paulo just stepped outside, and so then they
right,
came inside, and then he's like, "Well, he didn't even have a jock strap," and she's like, "What did I just ask?"
that's right,
And
yes,
that made me laugh out loud whenever she said that. There was something so funny about that line and the way she delivered it. It cracked me up. It just
yes.
cracked me up.
And it's a great line. Yeah, I forgot that was at the end of that scene.
Mhm.
But we see Monica in the next scene, and it seems like she and Phoebe's, looking after this guy together has slightly unraveled as well because they're showing up separately. It would appear without telling the other one. Because if I remember rightly, Monica must have been there in the morning because she changed his pajamas.
Yeah, which is
Uh,
so weird, right?
Again, how could somebody you'd have to disconnect somebody right from their machines,
Uh-huh.
evidently either keeping him alive or at least monitoring him. How could
Okay.
how could
And where did these pajamas come from? Did she
right?
go buy pajamas for this man? Guess his size? Like where
And how does she know it wasn't a
weird.
nurse that did it? Because I'm pretty sure, again, you can't just walk into a hospital room with nobody checking out who you are to completely strip down and change the clothing of a stranger. Doesn't
It's somebody
seem
who is extremely vulnerable and in a
right.
coma nonetheless.
Right.
Bizarre.
Such a strange
Bizarre.
set of circumstances here. So you can see the tension building between Monica and Phoebe here. Um, Another scene that I love coming up here, we go to the boys' apartment, and evidently Ross has concocted a story that Paolo kissed Nora Bing.
Mhm.
He starts to lie to Chandler, but I'm going to give him some credit here. A, he shouldn't have concocted the story, but B, he couldn't go through with it. And even though he knew the damage that this could cause to him and Chandler's friendship, he does own it. Um, which, like I said, I'll give him some credit, but don't want to give him too much credit for just doing the right thing, just doing the thing you should do.
So my wonder with that scene was that his plan to tell him just to kind of gauge how angry Chandler was going to be and then tell the truth? Or was he going to lie and blame it all on that guy, and just call it a day? Like,
That's a great
what
thought.
was his plan here?
That's a
I just
great thought.
is because I want to hate on Ross always, but my wonder, I would like to think, because he's an intelligent guy, I would like to think that maybe he was just gauging to see what Chandler's response was going to be. Like,
Right.
maybe it wouldn't be so bad if it was me instead of random Paolo.
And
I don't know.
that's really interesting. My assumption was he was going to see this Paolo story through and then panicked and just did what he needed to do. He did the right thing. But that's, yeah, it
Yeah.
could have been an additional layer to that. I
And with
do,
Joey
yeah.
standing there knowing the truth,
Right. It's a
would
bold
he have
move.
told Joey prior, hey, let's just tell him it was Paulo and call it a
Right.
day? Or,
But
yeah,
I didn't get the
what was the
Paolo
plan here,
story
boys?
because either just don't tell Chandler, and then the only way it would get out is if Nora told him, but then she's going to tell him it was Ross. So what was
Right.
the point in this? But maybe that leans itself to your possible theory that he was kind of setting it up somehow.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know. Just a wonder.
it
Just a
is
wonder.
the wonder that is Ross. Yes,
Hmm.
I do love. I mean, I'm very sad for Chandler to go through this, but like when he calls it, I think it's in this scene. He calls his mum a Freudian nightmare.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Freud comes up again.
Freud again, and that's such a great description, I think, for what he's gone through and going through with his mother. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, the Friday nightmare, then he storms out and slams the door. I love the way, again, the physical comedy, the way he does it, and then Joey does it.
Mhm.
Just very, very well done. Um, I'm looking forward to the next episode or two because we noticed that there's no, like etch a sketch on the door, the boy's door,
Yes.
but
I
there
was
is in the
looking for
hospital,
that.
right? There's one in the hospital.
No, no, no,
No,
no. It's a Magna Doodle up on their door, but it's an
right?
excess sketch that Phoebe gives, because I went there too. I went there too. And
Okay,
then I was
good.
like, wait a minute. No, 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 no. It's the Magna Doodle where you can write with the magnets, not
So,
the Etch a Sketch where you'd have to actually draw it all out.
so that's what I. So it's funny. Kate and I were both wrong initially, I think, because she thought it was an etch a sketch and I thought it was a whiteboard on the boy's door. But you're absolutely right. It's the Magna Doodle. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah, because
Um,
I was looking for it, because this is the first episode that I've like dissected with you where we're inside the boys' apartment for
yes,
any period of time.
yes.
And so I was looking for it. I was
Well, I'm looking forward to continuing this specific conversation next week because I've got thoughts about things I've seen in the boys' apartment in next week's
okay.
episode, which we'll get to.
Are we
But
going to
this,
talk about that
this
weird chair that Chandler was sitting in? It's a weird
right,
chair.
the decor and the furniture in the boys' apartment is bizarre. This again, is it? They're just two young guys and they don't really care. Like they found it on the street and it's just a free chair,
Probably.
something like that.
Mhm.
But yet you're right. Considering they go from those to the what are they called, the Barker Loungers.
Uh-huh.
Later there's definitely some things improve in the furniture department at a later date.
Until
Um,
they get robbed.
yeah, till
And
they
then it
get
gets
around
real bad.
that patio table. I do love
Uh-huh.
that scene, so I'm looking forward to reviewing that one with you. Let's see, we jump back over to the coffee house as it was brought up in Bamboozled. Rachel has started writing a book called A Woman Undone. She talks to Monica about it. And good for Rachel. Again, I think she's expanding her horizons a wee bit. She's taking a
Yep.
chance. She's trying to do something. So good on her for doing that. And then Monica's about to start her set about a guy that's recently become very important to her, I believe she says. And again, leading on it one more time for this episode, we see the physical comedy. This time from Courtney Cox and Lisa Kudrow as they leave to race out the coffee shop.
And it makes
Yes.
me laugh because she's like, because she's singing that song and it's the same tune as another song, like that,
Right.
Be Your Man or whatever. But and it's just like, and I just want to say, I gotta go. And then she takes
Right.
off, or I'm taking a short break, and that made me laugh because
It was
Monica very slowly starts to that
right,
door.
like she's trying to sneak out.
Uh huh, uh huh. It was funny.
And then, yeah,
Yeah.
Joey comes in and he's clearly not let go of Ross, not thinking that Gloria is as hot as Nora, because he's
Mhm.
brought pictures of the wedding day. Getting very defensive of his family. Again, good on Joey. But then comes one of my favorite lines of it's the line and then the reaction of Joey when Chandler comes in and addresses Ross as mother kisser, which is very
I
funny. But then Joey buckles with laughter. It's just fantastic. And
yes.
I think you can see in this scene that while Chandler's upset with Ross, with good reason, Ross starts to break Chandler down a little bit. Really, Chandler's more upset with his mother because
Yeah.
there's been a pattern of, I assume, most of Chandler's life of this kind of behavior. But you can see the cracks there that Chandler is going to forgive Ross. He's not
Yes.
quite there yet, but it's coming.
Yeah. And it made me laugh whenever he's like, and you kissed my mom. We're rehearsing for a Greek play.
That's right.
That made me laugh because it is just so out there and funny, and I liked that.
Yeah, I think, and then we gets down on the one knee, and Chandler's got his
Yes.
finger.
Yes.
So well done. Well, we bounce back over to the hospital, and the coma guy. Do we find out his name, by the way?
No.
No, I didn't think so. I thought about this
Uh-uh.
afterwards when I was just writing down some notes. He is awake and a bit of a jerk. I think. I think he is. But then, on the other hand, he didn't ask them to do any of this stuff, and he does say thank you. So my initial reaction was the guy's a jerk. But the
Yeah.
more I think about it, the more I'm like, he doesn't know who these people are. They've kind of violated his space in a lot of ways, and I mean, shaving him, changing his pajamas. Maybe he's not a jerk. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't think so because
Right,
he comes out of the restroom and there are these two women in regular clothes. They
right,
obviously do not work at the hospital. And how are you? And he answers them.
right,
And whenever they were on the street at the very beginning, he compliments somebody's hat. Like,
right.
I don't know that he's a jerk, but so much as just,
I think so.
I'm woozy, but I'm okay. And they're just like,
Yeah,
ah. And then he's, who are you? Like, that's
right.
a very legitimate question. He didn't say it in a rude way. He wasn't
No,
being ugly. And I mean, can you imagine waking up from a coma? He's obviously been out for a while. And
yeah.
and
These
what's
ladies
weird to
could
me
be
is, where are the people that would have been looking for him for these days? He's
right.
awake now. Why is nobody there?
See, and my thought was, he got hit while he was walking down the street. I would infer that he had his wallet or some kind of identification with him. Like,
Right.
I would
Because he
guess
just purchased something
that's
at that,
right.
but I guess in the 90s it was cash, right?
Much more,
So,
especially at a place like that. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So it's not like he would have swiped a debit card or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, where are the people? Where is his anything?
And I
Anything.
suppose he could have thought that Monica and Phoebe were crazy, like almost like stalkers or
Oh yeah,
something.
because he's
Well, they
got,
kind of are. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and on the flowers, they had written, from
Yes.
Phoebe and Monica. And so as he's looking around at the stuff, he's got to be like, who are these people?
Right. Yeah, I
So,
think the more I think my gut reaction was to sort of side with Monica and Phoebe, but the more I've thought about it and listening to you now, yeah, he was completely right in his reaction.
yeah,
He
because,
wasn't
and
rude, but he had a firm boundary there.
yeah, and I don't think that, you know, oh, I read to you, I sang to you, I do,
It makes him sound
what?
crazy. Yeah.
What? Why? Get out. And then I would be thinking, like, where are the nurses? Where is somebody to get these crazy people out of my room?
One of those alarms by the bed that you can hit.
Right.
Yeah, so he needs to
Pull for
hit.
help.
Well, poor old guy. We bounce from there back over to the boys' apartment where Nora Bing is. I
Oh.
think she's dropping off copies of her book for his friends before
Yes.
she's heading off to Lisbon. I guess the next leg of the book tour. And
Mhm.
good for Chandler. Like he apparently lets her have it a bit, and there's some arguing, which I guess is good to get all this off of his chest.
Well, I
Um,
mean, it's like a lifetime
yeah,
of all of these feelings and inappropriate and everything else. And it made me laugh whenever she like I came to drop off these books, they're autographed, and to give you a kiss and a goodbye. And so here's your
right,
kiss, here's your goodbye, and off she goes. And he very easily could have just let her go and not
right,
said anything. But you kissed my best, Ross.
yeah,
Which made me laugh. But like he had probably been rehearsing what he was gonna say,
right.
and she tried to just kind of blow through, which is
Well, to me,
probably
it was a little callback. We didn't mention this, but earlier when Ross kind of goes, I can't remember what he's talking about exactly, but he's like, "Oh, Nora, Mrs. Mum, you're Bing."
yes,
He kind of gets it's a similar sort of. You're right. Suddenly, you're trying to blurt it out, and you get the names mixed up.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then Joey listening through the. Again, I don't know why I find this line so funny. Well, they were arguing, fighting, and I'm here spelling it out for you.
And
It's
then
just
what happened? I'm telling you.
so. I think they listen. I think evidently Nora has handled it the right way, and she's apologetic, and she and Ross greet each other very formally in the hallway.
Yes.
Um, and good on Chandler. Good on Chandler for not holding any more against Ross, I suppose. Like
Yeah.
I said, he had every right, but I'm glad that they were able to get through it together.
Yeah. And get to the root cause. Like that's
Right.
the thing. Instead of staying mad at Ross, like yeah, you can be mad at Ross. You almost broke
Yes.
his finger, and it absolutely, but that's not where your feelings actually are coming from. It's not really
Right.
with Ross because as much as I hate to say it, drunk Ross,
Yes.
he was not 100% in the wrong in
Right.
that
It's
situation.
more of I don't know if it's more, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Not 100%.
Yeah.
Um, that might be another thing to bring up in listener mail. It ties into the question I want to ask you. But I think we go from apparently in the hallway. Kate noticed this earlier in the hallway when they're talking about racquetball. There are drapes hanging over the window in the hallway, but in this
Oh,
scene there are not drapes. There's just blinds. There was blinds and drapes, and then the drapes have disappeared apparently.
the
Um,
window in the hallway by the stairs?
yes, so if you're looking to the
Really?
stairs slightly to the right, so I'm going to go back and look at that as well,
Huh.
just to see.
And
But
why would you
apparently,
have drapes in a
right,
stairwell in an apartment building
very
anyway?
odd place to have them.
Mhm.
But apparently they were there, then they disappeared. And then we end this episode in the girls' apartment. Let's see, the Rachel's giving everyone a copy of her, we'll call it a manuscript, and then the spelling mistakes are brought up. All these kind of euphemistic things, and
Yep.
um, which again I think is there is a callback to this a little bit when Rachel decides to quit her job and she types out her CV, her resume, and it says she has excellent computer skills, but she makes a spelling mistake there. So I like these
Yes.
little things that probably mean nothing, but kind of flash forward or flashback.
Yes,
Um,
or are just consistent that the
yeah,
little details are not her strong suit.
right. So these, and then they kind of tease her about them a little bit. But again, I think good for Rachel. Like good on her for. It's like us with this podcast. We didn't know what we were doing at the beginning, but we dived right in, and we're
And just put it
having a
out
good time.
there and see what happens.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
because
So
yeah, and you're absolutely right. And how embarrassed or I don't know if embarrassing or being vulnerable or what that
Yes.
is, but I handing somebody your writing and being like, "Here, read it. Here
It
you
is
go."
you're very vulnerable. You got to have a degree of
Very.
bravery to do that, I think.
Yeah, I
So
think so
I'm
too.
proud of her. And considering where she's come from just what 10 episodes ago in the pilot, I think she's
Yeah,
come. There's a lot of growth. I think she deserves compliment her decision to be
absolutely.
vulnerable like that. But
Yeah.
and I think certainly on the stream, that's the end of this episode. We finished there in the girls' apartment. But some brand new information I wanted to look up was when, as we discussed in Bamboozled, and Nora has said she sold 100 million books. And I thought, well, is that a lot, or is it not very much for, and obviously a well-known author? I
Right.
really didn't have it. It's obviously is a lot of books, and it sounds like a lot, but I didn't know if it really
If that was an
was.
exaggeration or
Yeah.
if that's a
So
realistic
yeah,
amount.
like if you think of a I don't know, Stephen King. Do we know if he sold 50 million books or 900 million books? I wouldn't really know. I'd take a guess,
Did
but I
you look
wouldn't.
this up?
I looked up how many other authors are estimated to have sold 100 million books.
Okay.
And there was a list, and some of those authors I'd never heard of. But there
Oh,
was four that jumped out. And again, these are just estimations.
right.
But Tom Clancy,
Okay. Yeah.
Lewis Carroll,
Oh, okay.
Terry Pratchett,
I don't
and
know who that is.
he did. Was it The Hobbit? No, what did he do? Terry Pratchett. Hold on a second. And then C.S. Lewis of Narnia
Okay.
fame.
Yes.
You'll know who. I can't believe I forgot. Terry Pratchett wrote, Discworld, which I've never read. It's very much sort of fantasy stuff. English
How
dude. Disc and Night Watch. I know of Discworld. Um,
weird.
yeah, well, what is it? There's something else I feel he's particularly famous for. But he does, sort of fantasy, not Dungeons and Dragons, but like otherworldly
It's kind
sorts
of
of stuff.
like C.S. Lewis
Yes, I think
and
very similar.
okay, so Tom Clancy, absolutely not. That is not fantasy. I love Tom Clancy books. Like, not fantasy. And then who did you say? Lewis Carroll.
Let's see, Tom Clancy,
Lewis.
Lewis Carroll, so Alice in
Lewis.
Wonderland.
Yeah. So that's interesting that out of those four, three of them are fantasy genre.
Right. Yeah,
That's
and this
very because that is not a genre that I get hung up on like at all. Like I
it's
don't
not me either.
not my thing. That's interesting.
So Discworld is the series that Terry Pratchett's best known for. I'm just
See,
reading a little
I've
blurb.
never heard of that.
So I certainly have. I don't know if it's a more of a British thing. He's an English guy, and it's all about these flat disc-shaped planets, or one planet. Is one planet, so a flat Earth that rests on the back of these enormous four elephants. And there's all this, sort of symbolism of this cosmic turtle and things. There's 41 books in this series. I've never read them, but that's what I know them from is Discworld. I think it's got like this sort of subculture of
Oh,
people that
okay.
follow it. I think.
Okay, so then I just went and looked up Stephen King because I'm like,
Right?
okay, so how many copies
Yes.
would Stephen King be? Because I'm a Tom Clancy, and then these other three that like aren't really books that. So
Right.
Stephen King between 400 and 500 million copies.
Yes, and it was interesting that I knew it'd be a lot. That's a tremendous amount of books. I did get thinking how hard it must be to track that with any accuracy because of secondhand bookshops. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like we, it's
Does
I.
that only count once?
That's what I'm guessing. Like I will buy if there's a book I'm looking forward to, I'll buy it new. At Amazon or
Whenever it's
wherever.
released, right?
But I would guess 75% of the books I've ever bought come
Mhm.
from a used bookshop, secondhand bookshop, the recycled books on the Denton Square, something like that.
Right.
And I assume that those aren't really tracked the way they when they change hands more than once.
That's
Um,
true. Because then you got to think about libraries. And
yep,
then what about audiobooks? Do audiobooks count?
right. No idea at all. I don't know how it's really tracked.
Huh.
Yeah. So
Well,
just
there.
yeah, there you go. Something that I
Hmm.
thought was quite, and like I said, always trying to look up a brand new information in the voice of Phoebe for each show, and that was it. It was like, yeah, what kind of company does she share? Nora Bing in that 100 million, and of course, this is
Yeah.
before her new book, so maybe she'll end up going into the stratosphere with all of these. But so, of course, Mrs. Bing was played by the famous Morgan Fairchild, who's
Okay.
who's one of those people that I know who she is, and I think most people know who she is. But
Yeah, but
again,
I
this
had no idea why. That's
right,
exactly the
right.
conversation I had with myself as I was like, oh,
Oh, it's all
oh.
right. Don't yeah.
Sorry,
No,
Bellatrix is barking.
quite all right. She has
Um,
feelings on Nora Fairchild, apparently.
she
Yes,
does. Morgan
Morgan.
Fairchild.
Sorry, no. Yes, Morgan Fairchild. Goodness.
But yeah, I was like, I know who she is. I say that. I recognize her. I
Right.
recognize her. I know that she is. But I was like, why do I know who she is?
Yes.
Because I could not tell you why. But that's
Right.
just one of those faces. But she was on Dallas, and my parents were avid Dallas watchers. I believe it came on Sunday nights, maybe. But and then she was on the other one that came on right after it, the lawyer show that I had to go to bed before that one because it was a
Right.
little racy.
Oh dear.
Yes. Uh, Falcon Crest. Falcon Crest? Is that
Right.
right?
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know that
Yeah.
show.
And so what else did you find out about good old Morgan
Well, very
Fairchild?
little other than it's interesting you brought up she was on Dallas because she was born in Dallas.
It,
Um, she was born in Dallas, which for anyone who doesn't know, is about 30 miles south of where Woolison, DeeAnn, and I live. We live about 10 miles from each other, but we're both in sort of northern suburbs of Dallas. Um, she was in Days of Our Lives. I'm not sure how long, but she was definitely in it. So I thought that was a fun, sort of thing again with Joey being in Days of Our Lives. And she was in 5 episodes of Friends. Now, when I looked her up, I Googled her. She's been in a million things, and I'm sure
yeah.
some of them I recognized, but most of them I didn't. So I feel like there must be something that made her famous, and maybe it was the Dallas connection, or maybe she became famous in that. But yeah, one of these people that I know but didn't know why. And to me, honestly, I associate her with Friends. Um, but
She was also
yeah,
in a whole bunch of, so I grew up in the Dallas area, but she
right,
was in a whole string of commercials, but they were all
right,
local to the Dallas area. And so the fact
okay,
that she was on Dallas and then she was on, I think it was called Falcon Crest, and then on all of these local commercials, she was just like a household name
right.
and face here where I grew up. So
Right.
that was another
Interesting. So that
piece.
local
Mhm.
connection. Well, now we're at the stage of the recording where we'll look at our Gunther Central Park, our favourite character. It could either be the character or the actor. Who have you gone with this week?
Morgan Fairchild.
I
I
thought
I
you
love
might.
Mrs. Bing. I'm sorry. I think I like her. I think she's had a very like knowing what we know later that we find out about um her marriage to Chandler's dad and all of
Right.
that, and
Right.
she is famous and she is doing, and I think she genuinely thought she was a good mom doing the right thing by her son. Like I really genuinely think she did.
Yes.
And I like that they had their come to life conversation between her and Chandler, and apparently got loud. It probably was not ugly, but a lot of years of a lot of things.
Right.
So I think she's my Gunther Central Park character
I
this
like
week.
it. It just dawned on me when you said Morgan Fairchild. I think I could very easily talk about her as Morgan Freeman, like the name, without realizing I'd made a mistake. Like it just dawned on me how similar, obviously, their names are. and I probably wouldn't catch it if I said Morgan Freeman. I may have done it in this episode. I don't know. Um, she was my second pick.
Okay.
And Willison, you and I have known each other, I don't know, 15 years maybe. This might be the rockiest moment in our friendship.
Oh.
Because for me, it's
Oh
going to be Ross.
no.
It's going to be Ross Geller.
No. No. Not
And
yet.
not
I'm
yet.
gonna be honest. Later, there might be one or two episodes where I will suck it up and pick Ross, but not
Right.
yet.
Well,
No.
I've got a couple of reasons. I'm going to try and soften the blow a bit. And it's slightly Ross, it's slightly David Schwimmer. I love the appraisal line. I love that so much. And his physical reaction when he realizes he went into the wrong bathroom. I love that. I dislike the fact that he kissed Chandler's mum, of course. But I do like the fact he owned up to it. A little sketchy the way he did it with the Paolo thing,
Mhm.
but he did own up to it. And he was like, yes, I've screwed up. What can I do to make this right? So I'm kind of giving him those, but really it was more the two little golden nuggets of physical comedy that made him stand. And the fact, to me, nobody else stood out particularly above Nora. So I like, and I think she has some golden moments later on, which we'll talk about when we get there. So we'll hit this slightly rocky patch in our friendship, and Ross
Yes.
Geller for me is my Gunther Central Park.
Wow. It's like you kiss my Ross.
That's right. That's
How
exactly
dare
it.
you?
That's, how dare
How
I?
dare you?
And then, how would you rate this out of 10? Deliciously hot, sweet
Yeah.
cups of Central Park coffee. How would you rate this week?
Perfect amount of creamer. Uh,
Indeed.
I this one would be an 8. I think it had some pretty solid laugh out loud moments. Gave us some like deeper character development with some of our characters. Um, and Monica was funny. Like everybody had their moments where it was perfect timing. I liked it. I liked it a
All
lot.
right. I liked it. I don't know if I liked it as much as you. I think it's funny. I think there are great moments.
Hmm.
Um, this again, we're stumbling into some controversy.
Oh
I'm
heavens!
going with 6 and an espresso, 6.5.
Whoa!
Yeah, I have
Dang!
looked at other ones that I gave a 6 and ones that I've given a 7, and to me it
Hmm.
kind of falls in between them. I don't think it's as funny for me as East German laundry detergent,
Okay.
which I personally gave a 7. But I think it's better than the one with the butt or the one with the thumb, which I both gave a 6.
Okay.
So for me, I'm going with 6.5, 6 and an espresso for this one.
I'm I'm just kind of I don't know. I think maybe I need to have a rubric that I follow.
Right.
So,
We
so
do, the
I'll work
educator
on
in us
that
both.
for my
Yes.
consistency because I got to be honest with a lot of my ratings. It often has a lot to do with how I'm feeling, but I stick with that because it was
Yeah.
funny and I had some
Yeah.
laugh out loud moments, and that I think is a big contributing factor to how high I go because
Right.
that's
That
the
needs to be
point.
part of your rubric, I think. Yeah,
It
does it make
does.
you genuinely laugh? Now, I will say I thought we might see this slightly differently because right at the beginning of recording, you said, really, you brought up Monica's one liners, which hadn't
Mhm.
even occurred to me. So it was clearly to me that you and I had looked at this through slightly different lenses, which is what this is all about and is
Yeah.
perfect. I love that. But on that note, any final thoughts?
Well, Al, I'm hoping that some of our listeners, we would love to hear from you guys. Please feel free to reach out to us, comment on the podcast, reach out to us on Instagram. We want to know about who's listening to this pod. What is your connection to friends? Like, is it just something random that you've run across? Is it something that's had an impact on you? We would love to know more about the people that are listening. So please reach out, talk to us.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Friends is it is a great community, and I'm not going to. Yeah, we're not going to sit here and talk about numbers because it's not really about numbers, but we do have a growing listener base. I've been stopped at work, by a couple of people who listen each week, and they give me their points of view. And I happen to live with somebody who listens to the show. And on that note, she is bringing us our piece of listener mail this year. So this episode. So Kate, my wife, was listening to the one, I forgot which episode it is, the one with Aurora, right at the beginning. Is it episode 2 or 3, where
Yeah,
Chandler dates Aurora?
the
That
married
she meets
lady.
at Joey's play, where he is, singing his song, his Freudian song. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but apparently I was a little harsh in judging Aurora's morals in Kate's opinion. Kate is more of the opinion that she feels Aurora is honest with everybody. She's not hiding anything. Yes, she has a husband and evidently several boyfriends. There's Ethan, and then there's Chandler, and then there's another guy. But she feels that we can infer that Aurora's honest with everybody. Um, I don't know if she's honest with her husband. I don't know if that actually comes up. She seems to be being honest with Chandler,
Mhm.
and Ethan doesn't seem to have a problem with Chandler, but she thinks that perhaps we were a little harsh on Aurora in that episode. So I wanted to throw that out there to the listeners. Is Aurora just doing what Joey does? If Aurora was a guy, would that be seen differently? Or what did you feel she was sneaking around and not acting appropriately?
Yeah, and
So,
it was episode 5. Season
episode
1,
5.
episode 5. And we did talk about that during the episode about, and I believe that it was questionable morals is what
Yeah, that's what
the
I thought.
comment was. And yeah, I totally see what Kate's saying, and I can't remember our whole conversation
Right, neither
about
do I.
that.
Right.
But as I mean, yeah, maybe that was kind of judgy.
It might have been. And she brought up Joey. Do we know if Joey's always honest with these women that he seems to sleep with and then leave? Maybe he is, but maybe he isn't. We
Mhm.
don't really know. Anyway, some food for thought for our listeners as we sign off this week. But next week, it is the one with the dozen lasagnas. And
I love that one.
yes, I'm looking forward. I love it. And I also, there's some things in the background I find very interesting. So, on that note, thank you guys very, very much for tuning in to the Purple Door podcast.